Alright, let's get into our IPv6 takeover attack. We're going to be doing this on the same Active Directory hacking lab that I created. If you want to create something like this and you're seeing this video disconnected from that, should have a video on my GitHub to recreate this entire lab. So, without further ado, let's get started. Now, the first thing that we'll talk about in this is there's a few tools that you're going to need, but if you're using Kali, as long as you have the latest version, it's 2022, that version I'm using late 2022 or mid. Either way, you don't need anything is too crazy. If you have Kali, you have the tools that you need other than this one right here, which is Man in the Middle 6. This is going to be a tool we're using for this attack. And if you don't have it, just go ahead and grab the code, clone that onto your box. I already have it, so we can get rid of this. Now, let's go down here, and actually, let's just go ahead and get our Wireshark started. No harm. So, wherever you install Man in the Middle 6, it's up to you. I just did it on my desktop. This is test environment. I'm just doing this for this attack. So I am in the folder, the Man in the Middle 6 folder that's on my desktop, or sorry, not my desktop, in my my home directory. And basically all you need to do is sit here. As you can see, we have the setup.py. Just run that. I'm already set up, but if you wanna set that up, just come in here in the first MITM6 folder and go ahead and run your setup with install, hit enter on that, and run that. It should be fine. Once you're done, you should be able to get up and go. And what we're going to do, we might as well just get this started right now. Our Man in the Middle acts just as it sounds. It's going to be sitting here in the network, and it's going to be receiving requests and replying to our vulnerable machine, or our machine that will be taking over, which will be currently not started. But as you can see here, let's get rid of these. As you can see here, our Windows server, you're going to need that to run, already running. Make sure that's up. Now, I'm not starting this. You can. It's not a big deal. You can restart it. But to trigger this, we're going to need to either restart or turn on our machine. So right now, you can leave off your secondary machine or your host machine in your network. I do have Kali running. Obviously, that's what we're going to be running the attack on. Now, our Man in the Middle machine, or Man in the Middle, we're going to start this, and this is just going to sit here in the network listening. And the purpose and the goal is that eventually this will be able to collect it will be able to spoof, and I'll explain a little bit further how we'll do this, but we'll be able to convince our victim machine that we are its DNS server. That is the goal here, and that's what we're going to do. So to start that, let's just do sudo m6 attack D for our domain, and then just enter your domain, whatever the name is, bebop.net. I'm going to keep it simple. There are other flags we can use here, but for now, this will get the job done. So let's just stick to this. Enter your password. Let this run. You're not going to cause any problems, just letting it run for now. And now I'm going to come in here. And this is, so in this folder, see we have our ntlm relay. This is our Python script that we're going to use. And so this is how we're going to be relaying whatever we need. Once we can convince our victim machine that we are the DNS server, now it's just about relaying that information. And what we're attacking through our ntlm relay will be the LDAP server, or LDAPs, and then we'll be able to make changes on our Active Directory domain through that via our user. Okay. Now to start, let's go ahead and sudo python 3 and use your script. Now for this script, some of the options are, I've already looked at these, but if you want to look at some of the options, go ahead. Tag H. Underneath, you'll see that there's a few things we're going to be using here. Let's go up. We're going to need says IPv6. This listens on both, and that's what we're going to need. Here, we're going to need this as well. Our WPAD, which is basically your Windows proxy automatic detection, this has been patched to a certain extent, but with man-in-the-middle 6 and the NTLM relay, we can still get around this, which is what we're going to do. But we're going to basically create a fake one. So we're going to be using what is actually on our victim machine, but we're going to create one in this command so that we can run through there. Now let's look. So okay, we're going to need that. And there are other commands you can use in here that are valuable. I'm just not using them all. I'm going to keep it as simple as possible. But here's one that we definitely will want. Loot directory. This is basically, once we run this, we'll get our loot directory, or a loot. Basically, we'll get a folder with a bunch of information in it that we can look through. Might be information about users, computers, maybe passwords, whatever we can get from this dump. Usually, I don't know of getting passwords and things like that, but at least good information. It's good for enumeration, to be honest, but we'll be going way past that. So these are the basics. I use debug sometimes too. I tried this attack and ran into a bunch of issues for me. Things weren't working and there was nothing online I could find, so I had to debug my way out of that. So it has a lot of valuable information if something goes wrong. You don't need to use it though. So let's go ahead and type this out. NTLM. So we're going to do 6 because we need our IPv6 included. Our T, which we actually did not stop and show you. Just know that's the case. Let me see if it shows up there. Yeah, our target. So I'm going to be running this attack T with our target, and we're going to be attacking LDAPs. So, and for our domain controller, which is 10.10.2.4. And now here's where we're going to add in our WPAD, or our fake one. So I'm just going to call it a FPAD for fake pad. This will work if you just use this name. You don't need to add anything else to it, but I figure for good practice, it might be better to have the entire thing just in case. And let's do our loot, so -L. We're going to pick a location for this. I'm just going to call it loot box. And yeah, so let's go ahead and run that. Now when we're running this, as we can see here, we're seeing our, let's get our IPv6. That's all I want to see now. Everything's just sending out multicast. Might be broadcast in here too, but everything's just sending out. Nothing odd. Nothing. As you see, all the destinations are just going out to everyone. No one's responding to each other right now. And that's right. That's normal. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna bring this poor guy in. So as I start this machine, you'll notice that this would be a realistic incident in an environment, a machine coming online, something as simple as that. But when there's things waiting for connections, waiting for you to join, this is exactly how we're going to capture, attack the LDAPs, because first we're going to convince this victim machine that we are its DNS server. Now that's our goal. Okay, so now we're seeing some spoof replies coming in. It's sending out spoof replies, as we got one right here. You might see that request come through our WPAD. So now, as you start noticing, this is getting a little bit different. We're seeing actual interactions between the types, and let's actually, I'm gonna pull up my notes. Where did I put my notes? Okay. No, that's not it. Okay, so the projects, here we go. Okay, so here we go right here. I just want to make sure I see who everybody is, because this is a little IPv6 address is a little bit more complex. So what we're going to see here, we're looking for, here's our attack IPv6. If you look here, we see that right around, where was it? Something happens here. But if you look here, we have our FE80 showing our IP address, our IPv4 address, because of how this is working. This 10.10.2.5 is our second host, our swordfish. That's the computer right here. And that computer is talking, sending messages to our attack machine, because we can see on the IPv6 right here. Now let's go in and let's see what it looks like in here. Go ahead, log in. And more importantly, we're going to go back and look at what's happening in our attack machine in a second, but I want to show you something on this end. Let's go ahead and pull up our command prompt. So now it's IP config do all. If you see right here, we have DNS servers. Our DNS servers should show 10.10.2.4. That is our domain controller, and that is our DNS server. On this machine, we see right before that we have an IPv6 address here, and the IPv6 address of our attack machine. This is why we say IPv6 takeover. If this machine thinks we are the DNS server, then that is obviously a dangerous thing. Okay, so let's look here. Now, this is an issue that I've run into a few times. I'm not quite sure what happens, but if this happens with you, I'm glad this happened, because this drove me crazy. So just go ahead and stop this. There is an issue that I've said. Ignore that. Come into your, where is it? We just need our domain controller. So under our users, I believe it maybe happens sometimes when running this attack. It's possible I didn't reset the entire system properly. Come in here to your security, and here, if you notice, this isn't quite looking right. This is not what it looked like when I set it up. We're missing a few things. I believe this, if it's not the attacker, might be something else. So I'm going to restore this default. Go ahead, hit OK. And I mean, you might as well do it for the administrator too, if this has happened. I believe it. Okay, go ahead and hit restore. This one should be fine. I'm not going to be dealing with this for this anyway, but it's not fine. So let's just go ahead and hit restore. This one won't matter, but let's just double check. This one's fine. Okay. So now that that's reset back to where it is, we're going to start this again. As you see, what happened here was I'm getting the computer, not the user. So technically speaking, now let me show you this though. Even getting that, I'm pretty sure I still got the loot. Yeah, so I mean, here's the loot box from last time, but hold on, let me see which one was from this time before I hit the wrong one. Okay, so let's remove this loot box. Get out of here. Okay, now I just want to look. Let's go into this loot box right here. So now you see all this stuff in here. The easiest way to read this for me, I'm just going to take in HTML. Now you see we've got domain computers, domain groups, domain policies, domain trust, domain users, a lot of different information here. So it's really about what you want to see. But let's go with maybe Firefox. Domain. domain users. Let's do the HTML. That's what I want. And look at this. So here I am. I didn't even get the attack to run fully successful. And I can now see who everyone is, what group they're part of. This is interesting though. I don't recall you adding her to domain users. Oh, sorry. Don't know. I'm thinking domain admins. She is definitely a domain user. Okay, so here's our administrator, and here's exactly what we intended to do. Here's a flag. So if this was a CTF, we could grab this right here just by grabbing this loot. We haven't even really done anything. So it's really cool to enumerate even if you don't have the full attack run successfully. But that's not what we're here to do. That is definitely not my goal. What I want to do is I want to be able to create a user, because that's what this attack can do, using LDAP, and then make that user a privileged user. So that's our goal. Even though we did get this, that's not our main goal. So let's get rid of that now. We don't need that. And now that we fixed everything, let's just in case, to be safe, I don't believe I need to do this, but I just want to double check or make sure. I don't think there's anything I needed to update. We're not going to take any chances. Alright, so now what we can do here, though, a way that will trigger this as well, it should trigger this, is let's run this. Okay, get this back up and running. This should still be running. Now I should be able to just reset this. Didn't even have to reset it. And here we go. This is exactly what we're looking for. We want to see, so Spike, we're getting the user. The user is the one that has domain privileges, so that's why we're not getting anything if it's not seeing Spike. It's something that had to do with the attack when I ran it before. It knocks everything out of whack and I forgot to reset. But basically, this means that we're in business. So we see user privileges found, adding user to privilege group, enterprise admins, user privileges found, modifying domain, ACL, attempting to create user, and this is what we're looking for. Adding new user with username, that. And let's copy this because we're going to need this later. And we have a password. Now, obviously, you have that, and you have the password right there. See success. All privileges on the domain now has, okay. And this is another thing. This is within, if you see secrets dump.py or pi, this is another thing that you can use. You can use this if you want to get other information. Well, I'm going to do something different. So I'll show you what I'll do in a second. I want you to notice as well. So here, because I didn't do the loot, put everything in here. But we also see this ACL. This is to restore, this is what I should have used last time. This is to restore your computer after you do this. Great for pen testing environments. So you don't have to, even if it's just a test, you want to be, maybe you want to test it again, like I just didn't do. Granted, I manually put it back to what I know is different, but yeah, that would just be an easy way to do it. So this is what we're going to do. Because if we come look here, we need to confirm that we just created that user. We can't just let the computer tell us. Maybe it's saying that, but we don't know. But here we go. Here's our user. Even saying that, I think I'll be censored. But this is what I want to show you. Yes, we created this user, but member of domain users. They have no privileges. I mean, this is still valuable that we have a user that we have the password for on the network. But, and they're a domain user. So we're in the domain now with a user, but we can do even better than this. Because I don't want that user, I want that user to have privileges just in one move. So we are going to run the same command again. and we are going to say escalate its user, and then let's just copy that user. I believe this. If this doesn't work, we'll figure it out. So yeah, let's go ahead and run this. Now it's the same thing. I'm gonna have to trigger it again, which doesn't take too long. But here we go. So now you see that it ran the same thing again. I'm not looking for it to create another user, but it escalated this user. We can see adding user to group enterprise admins, and there we go. That's what I wanted to do. So now we can stop this. Let's confirm that we have this. Let's look at our user. Let's make sure that we refresh. Now if we look at the members, our user is an enterprise admin. Now we can do many things with this. Obviously this is something that is terrible. This is really bad. And this attack is actually an attack that there doesn't need to be too much that I need to set up to make my machine vulnerable. I mean, IPv6 is going to be active in a lot of different environments. And really all we did was, it's just about getting on the network. Getting inside of the network will allow you to run this attack. You're sitting there with man in the middle, then man in the middle. Once you convince this victim machine that you are the DNS server, now you can attack LDAPs, and you see how easy that was to do that. So now the question is, how do we mitigate this? And as I said before, mitigation for this is not quite so easy. This is why this attack is actually a really clever attack. You can turn off IPv6, but I don't know that that's something everybody wants to do or would be recommended, especially as we start to migrate to IPv6. I'm not sure that turning that off is not going to cause you other problems, especially as we get closer to using that is more frequently. Then on top of that, we're now talking about, let's see, what else can you do? We might be able to pull. Actually, let's look at this. Because I know I've seen it before, but there's a few things that we probably can. Let's look together. Why not? I could have sworn. Oh, here we go. This is where I saw it. The only defense against this attack that we are currently aware of is disabling IPv6. So I know about that one. I know about the WPAD. Yeah, that could be something as well. Turning that off if you're not using it. Assuming people aren't using it. And that's another thing, Kerberos. Stop using NTLM. That'll solve a lot of these attacks. It's stick to Kerberos. Alright, well, that's the attack. I hope this helps, and look forward to seeing you in the next attack.